Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Looks like we don't have too many people on the call, but if other people join, we'll just mute people as they come on, and we'll save our questions kind of towards the end. Before we get started, my name is Bill Hunt from HTML Global, and this is a fairly brief virtual training on phishing. So before we get into the weeds here too much, who we are and what we do. We are an IT solutions provider. We provide IT solutions. We provide cybersecurity, web design, and redesign, as well as web support. We support businesses of kind of all shapes and sizes. So today's presentation, we're going to go over some statistics about phishing, what it is, different types of phishing, how to identify phishing, and how to avoid falling prey. And then we'll end up with some questions and answers. So the statistics, just some general cybersecurity statistics, and some of these are a little bit more phishing specific, but 92.4% of malware is delivered via email, and those are mostly phishing attempts. 90% of security breaches are inadvertent and unintentional, caused by human error. So usually those aren't breaches where an attacker is actively trying to hack into systems, quote unquote. They are just sending out phishing emails, and a employee is accidentally providing credentials that can be used to gain access to other systems. The average total cost of a breach has increased in the last year. The average cost of a breach in 2017 and 2018 was 3.62 million and has gone up to 3.86 million. The average size of a data breach has also increased by 2.5%, and the total cost of a record lost due to a breach has increased from about $141 per record to $148 per record, and that's just on average. And that could be something like some customers' personal information being leaked and then having to pay for their security services for the next 12 months, which is typically sort of what happens in a lot of these scenarios where breaches happen of customer data. In April of 2019, it was estimated that 293.6 billion emails were sent around the globe each day, and many of those contain various exploits, in some cases up to 55%. So we'll keep going on here. So what is phishing? Phishing is an attempt to manipulate someone by sending them a message, essentially, and it could be any kind of message. There's different types of phishing, which we'll go over later. But they usually include harmful attachments, like a Word or a PDF document, and once you open them, they can cause harm to your computer, installing malware, ransomware, other kinds of things. Phishing emails can also contain malicious links that can lead a user to a fraudulent site, and this is probably something that's almost more common now. You get an email from something like a FedEx that says your package delivery is coming. Click here to, log into your account, something like that. They click it. They think they're logging into FedEx, but what they're really doing is providing their FedEx credentials to a malicious actor that's made a page that looks exactly like FedEx's login page. It happens a lot with banking also, especially common sites like PayPal, eBay, Chase, American Express. Those are very common, very commonly phished user pools. Sites are used to collect confidential information, so usually usernames and passwords, but that doesn't really, it doesn't end there. Sometimes they're collecting things like people's social security numbers. They're trying to collect people's addresses. And then scammers then would use that information to monetize the data. So that could be something like selling it on the dark web, which is the very common use case. It's cheap and easy for someone to collect a lot of credentials and then sell them on the dark web to the highest bidder. Or another scenario is just to use it for other harm. So like in the case of banking, that's the pretty common one. They would steal some information, get enough information where they can call in, pose as that customer, because now they maybe have their account number, and their name and maybe some other security questions they're able to glean from that information, and they can use that to convince someone to perform a transfer or do something else with funds. So some other types of phishing that are very common. So vishing or voice phishing is essentially the same thing. It's those spammers calling, saying that they're with the IRS and pretending, that they're going to collect some money for you, or you owe back taxes and they need some information in order to verify your account. That's the same thing. A lot of times phishing through email and vishing go together. Another less common one, this is more for like higher security situations or large corporations where someone uses a USB device to phish. They leave malicious software on a USB thumb drive around an office. They come in, say they're a messenger or something, toss a thumb drive under a secretary's desk. They pick it up, go, oh, I wonder if this is blank, plug it in, and their systems are compromised. So that's another thing that you have to worry about. So there's different types. There's kind of three different styles of phishing that we worry about. So there's deceptive phishing, which is attack where someone is impersonating a legitimate company in an attempt to steal personal information or login credentials. There's spear phishing, where someone is customizing their attack emails with a target's name, company, position. So they're pre-collecting some information, and then they're very specifically targeting that person, and it makes those emails seem more credible. So there's some increased credibility if you have some other things to hook onto. So when that email comes, it looks like, oh my gosh, yeah, this person does know me because they have all my other information. That all looks correct, so I can trust that email. And then this is becoming more and more common as CEO fraud, where they're targeting an executive in an organization. They go to the who is or the about our team page on a website. They look up some information. They go, okay, here is the CEO. We know their name. We know what they look like. We maybe know their email address. And they're trying to potentially either pretend to be that CEO and ask other members of the administration team to do something that they're not supposed to be doing, like buying gift cards for the support team, or performing a transfer for the accounting department, things that are pretty common. And employees tend to not only want to trust those messages, but they also want to not ask questions a lot of times of the CEO. So that's a good attack for phishing people. So how do you ID phishing? There's a couple of ways, and we'll look in a minute at the next slide. Has a specific phishing email with a lot of things so that we can kind of talk about all of them. But you confirm personal information. So if you're getting a phishing email and there's personal information on there, which we were just talking about as like one of those spear phishing ways where there might be personal information, but you should confirm it's all correct, confirm there aren't any spelling errors in it, make sure you really understand what that information is, and that none of it seems like it's out of place even a little bit. Make sure that the email address and the web addresses that are in that email are correct. So for instance, if you get an email that looks like it's from Chase, but you look at who sent it to you and it's not coming from @chase.com, there's a good chance that that's not a legitimate email. Additionally, you can hover over links and see if the links in the email, if there are any, go to the URL of the company that you anticipate that those links would go to. So again, using Chase, if there was a link in an email that Chase sent you, if you hover over that link and it pops up, those links should all go to chase.com or some version of chase.com. But it's not going to go to like some other website .chase.com. That you have to be very specific to look at that, and I can show you some examples of how that works. Check all the grammar. So most of the time, phishing is done by overseas call centers, and the individuals doing the phishing in mass are not are definitely not English grammar wizards. So if there's a major grammar issue that sticks out at you, that's a good sign that maybe that's a phishing email. The other thing is phishing emails tend to create a pain point. So they tend to create a scenario in which you're worried about something. So that could be, if you don't log into your account, it's going to be deleted within the next 30 days. Please click here to log in and confirm your account details. It could be something like your account is overdrafted. Please log in here to confirm, that you made the following charges. They're creating a sense of urgency and a scenario in which you have a concern about something going on with your business, with your personal life, with your finances, whatever, in order to try and get you to make a click on that email. So look out for those types of things, and then kind of have to think to yourself, okay, would this company send me an email like this? Can I go to their website directly without clicking on the link in this email to confirm on my own? There's some other ways to deal with that. And then attachments. Generally, when you are getting an attachment or going to receive an attachment, you know ahead of time. And most people don't think about this. So if someone's going to send you a letter with an attachment to it, generally, or an Excel sheet, something like that, for the most part, you're already aware that that attachment's going to come. Otherwise, they would have just written the message in the body of the email. For the most part, attachments psychologically have with them already a known element. You already know you're going to receive this attachment. You know you can trust this attachment when you get there. So if you get an email that has an attachment and you don't have any knowledge ahead of time that you are going to be receiving that attachment, it's a good idea to really evaluate that email, scrutinize it, and make sure that you're not clicking on an attachment that you were unaware of where it originated or why you originated it. So here's a specific email example with a lot of things called out on it. So for instance, at the very top, you'll see this is coming from Office-365 at security.onmicrosoft.com. This is a little bit sort of like a extra bonus point kind of question, but onmicrosoft.com is a legitimate Microsoft account, but the security part is not. So that might be a little bit difficult to figure out. But again, if you are getting something from Office 365, it's going to come from Microsoft.com. It's not going to come from something on Microsoft.com. And learning how to identify those things is something that's important. And you can always go and type in Office 365, find Microsoft sites, see what their URL is in your browser, and then you can kind of just judge whether or not that email should have come from there or not. Again, you've got an attachment here. You didn't know an attachment was coming to you. There's no reason for you to have received an attachment from Office 365. And again, this is a slightly more advanced phishing email, but this kind of thing does happen. And again, you don't have a reason to be receiving a PDF attachment about Office 365. So you have to think to yourself, why are you doing that? Going down the list again, where it says Dear Customer, Dear Customer is pretty generic. So if you have an Office 365 account, they probably have your full, complete, actual spelled out name. And so you would see Dear whatever your name happens to be. You're probably not going to see a generic message like that. Again, they're creating a sense of urgency or a pain point, so you have to pay your invoice now. So that's something to look at. What's included? Again, you've got a grammar error, and this is a sort of advanced view of what most of them look like. Most of them are worse off than this particular message, but these are good things to look for. So you should be looking for some grammar, and when you hover over that link, you'll see it's going to an IP address. It's not going to Microsoft.com, so it's going to that 66.160.154.156. So that link is a fake link, and it's something that is going to be used to point to, it's going to be point to a server that's going to serve malicious code back to you. So how to avoid falling prey to phishing. So like we just talked about, you want to be wary of links. There are anti-phishing toolbars that you can install. We provide a couple of those to our customers if that's something that you want. Verify a site security. So when you go and you actually go to a link, again, we don't recommend necessarily clicking on the link from the email. Go to the vendor's website directly. Make sure that they have a security certificate. You'll see that little lock in the top of your browser. Don't send any personal financial information via email. So it's okay if your bank sends you personal financial information via a secure link, which is something they pretty commonly do. They have a security system usually that holds encrypted information so that you can receive it, but they shouldn't be sending it in plain email, and you shouldn't either. Because that information can be intercepted. Your regular old email that you're sending back and forth is not necessarily encrypted. A lot of times it is encrypted inside your domain, but as soon as it leaves your domain, it's not encrypted anymore. And then educate yourself and others. So in our case, one of the products that we have, and I actually don't have a slide about this, I probably should, we sell and use a product, two products actually. One is called Bullfish, and the other one is called KnowBe4, and both of those are systems that send out two things. They send out faux phishing emails, so we essentially phish you and your employees as a test to see if you guys pass those, pass that phishing. See if you click on a link, see if you open an email. We track all of that so that we can report back and let everybody know how their employees are doing. And then both of those systems also send out various training videos similar to this webinar that we just went through that show show all kinds of different things as far as how to avoid phishing scams and things like that, so that the employees inside an organization can get a little bit more educated about what to look for and what to do.